I got this new idea for an app. It's going to be big. It's going to be huge. Uber Kidnap, powered by Venmo with Ransom calculator. You tap your phone to the abductor's phone. It transfers the agreed upon amount for ransom, and it automatically sends you an Uber to come pick you up. If we're going to normalize, systematize, popularize, and monetize the act of kidnapping to where it can become a business, why not just go all the way? Uber Kidnap, powered by Venmo with Ransom calculator. And the ransom is based on local per capita income and other similar commissions that have been paid out in previous scenarios. And so, of course, I'm using the absurdity to illustrate the absurd. That a kidnap insurance company is just as absurd as Uber Kidnap. And you may not find much application, much usefulness for this in your neck of the woods, but these apps go worldwide, and I assure you, in some places in Krapistan, they could really use this to convenience, as a convenience. So that's what the insurance company is doing. It's monetizing the act of kidnapping. Normalize it, systematize it, and popularize it. But primarily, you got to monetize it, and then we need to make the payment process smooth transaction. The insurance company is what does that. Now, let me explain to you what kind of people might start up an insurance company like that. Ex-military, MI5, MI6, CIA, Army intelligence, not foot soldiers that got out of the military and decided they wanted to start up a company. Guys who get out of the military, start up a company doing exactly what they did in the military, but they make a lot more money and they do it for the private sector. These guys would include the same guys that did it in the military. They need to figure out how to get a convoy of supplies from point A to point B, and they know that there's these Taliban type tribes that hang out at the choke points. Essentially, it's what we've come to know as a toll road. Same process. The same bandits that would sit on the side of the road and tell you, we're going to take everything you got if you don't give us a little cut in order to pass through a bridge, a choke point. Inner city travel, people travel within the city, right? And people travel within this city. But the people traveling from one city to another are most often commercial. They're packing goods. Either that they bought from this city and then they're taken back home, or that they're taken to the city in order to sell. In these areas, the locals know you have to take the payment for the thugs or you don't get past the bridge. The locals know this. It's essentially a toll road. And the same people that used to sit by the side of the road that we call bandits, like train robbers, systematized it. Like James said, predator has become civilized. So much so that we now call it a toll road, and we know what day of the year to pay your taxes. Same process as those guys in these third world countries that sit on the side of the road and tax you as you go by, and the locals know it's just a tax. As long as you pay them their cut, you ain't got to worry. They ain't going to hassle you. They don't want to have to kidnap you. They don't want to have to take everything you are packing. So now it occurred to me when my dad says that in some of these places they just carry sacrificial cash to hand over to the kidnappers and hope they go away. And I thought, well, why wouldn't they just take the cash and kidnap you? Repeat customers, passive revenue stream of income. In order to get other people to pay me to not kidnap them, I'm going to take your money and let you go. Now you go tell all your friends that paying me the amount kept you from getting kidnapped. If I kidnapped you, even after you paid me the money, then word would get out to your other associates that know that didn't work. But if I just take the money and don't kidnap you, word gets out to your other associates, and people come through this part of town with the payment ready. Passive revenue stream generation. Getting paid for people you don't kidnap. That's what that is. And so the kidnappers know that they want a good repeat customer, return customer, good service, so they don't kidnap the guy who pays the money. Essentially, that's the same thing as The new app I'm going to create, Uber Kidnap. It allows the small startup business, you know, who wants to take in. My dad was a kidnapper, my grandpa was a kidnapper, and I just want to follow in the family business. But he doesn't want to focus on small fish and having to just kidnap random tourists for $1,000 here, $1,000 there. He wants to go for the big fish, like these Saudi princes that you could get multi-millions out of. And so in order to allow him to do that, he employs the Uber app, the Uber Kidnap, powered by Venmo with Ransom calculator, and he can even franchise it and have 10 guys below him, 10 downlines that are out there kidnapping the small fish, random tourists, while he can focus on the big fish and really practice his craft and really hone his skills at kidnapping. Instead of having to bother with the small fish, this can generate him an ongoing stream of passive income where he doesn't even have to kidnap people. Just say, you're kidnapped. Okay, here, tap my phone to yours. And eventually it'd get so convenient that homeless just sit on the side of the road and grab you by the wrist. You're kidnapped. And he's like, get the hell out of here. You kidnapped me last week. I gave you $50. Come on, man. I'm hard. You get out of here. You got to put more effort into it than that. And so the whole idea of kidnapping insurance is a euphemism. It's like Tony in The Sopranos, the guy that says, I paint houses. He don't really paint houses. He's a paid killer. But he uses a euphemism like I paint houses to avoid talking about what he really does. Likewise with, I was an insurance agent. Insurance. When he's really something more like a hostage negotiator before the fact. You've heard about an accomplice after the fact. This is an accomplice before the fact. He is exactly the solution in an kidnapping insurance company that the kidnappers are looking for in order to generate a passive revenue stream of income without having to actually kidnap the people doing it. So, the kind of guys that would start up this kind of business in the private sector are the same ones that did it for the military while enlisted. And I can even imagine a scenario under the rules of engagement that we had there for a while under the Obama administration, where the hands were tied of our troops, because rules of engagement said, well, you got to wait for them to shoot at you 3 times and then you can return fire, but you got to shoot 10 feet above their head as a warning shot, and then if they continue firing, then you got to give them one more warning shot, and then if they continue firing, then you can shoot right at them. So the commanding general realizes we save a lot of treasure and men and women's lives. Since our hands are tied, we just call up Blackwater and Halliburton right here. The same guys that are in the battlefield right next to us with top-notch equipment. The military soldiers are looking at these guys in the private army and realizing they got all the new gear, all the equipment, all the luxuries and amenities you could ask for over here in the desert, and we're dealing with crap. And so the general hires these private military guys to go clear out the roadway so we can get this convoy through, because the general can see the guys sitting on the side of the road and he knows what they're waiting for. They're waiting for us to come through so they can shoot at us. But rules of engagement means we can't clear out the pathway before we take this convoy through. So the general signs a check of taxpayer dollars, hands it over to the Blackwater Halliburton boys. They go clear out the path and we move the convoy through to get supplies where they're needed. Essentially, by putting those rules of engagement in, you've expanded the private military, the military-industrial complex. That's what the kidnapping insurance agency does. Industrializes a form of warfare called kidnapping, aka terrorism. Insert here Lucky Larry Silverstein that got a terrorism insurance policy on the Twin Towers just shortly before they fell. The kind of person who would dismiss all of this information I'm telling you about Matt is the same kind of person that would have to blow off and act like, oh, Larry Silverstein getting that terrorism insurance. I'm sure there was no backroom dealing, double-crossing, dirty business going on there. I'm sure it was all just on the up and up. The guy has lied to you at least twice. One lie is a lie of omission, where you fail to mention something. You just kind of leave something out. Like when you tell people that you're an insurance agent and fail to mention that you are something more like a hostage negotiator in the Middle East in battlefields. No, I'm just an insurance claims adjuster. Yeah, it was real boring. I was sitting at a desk all day. Think Norton Antivirus and McAfee Antivirus. They openly employ and write checks to, not black market cash payments under the table, openly write checks to large groups of hackers that they pay to develop the viruses that they can then sell you the antidote for. Because if we don't pay these hackers to develop these viruses, then these are the white hat hackers, these are the good guys. But if we didn't pay them to develop the viruses, then the black hat hackers, the bad guys, would develop the viruses and unleash them on your computer and steal your identity and all that. So we pay these hackers to stay one step ahead and develop the latest, greatest viruses, spyware, and malware, and then sell you the antidote openly. It's not a conspiracy. They write checks to these hackers that develop the viruses, for which they develop the software to patch up your firewall and then sell you the antidote. Creating the ailment and then selling you the cure is the oldest trick in the book. Kidnapping insurance, it is unavoidable that it's going to result in more kidnapping. Just like during the war on terror, we said, no, we don't deal with terrorists. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't pay ransoms, because as soon as you do, 10 more terrorists going to kidnap 10 more people to try and extract 10 more ransoms. It creates a self-perpetuating supply and demand. And to monetize it with a kidnapping insurance company, in order that you, Joe Blow, is going to go visit this place where they've already established the only legwork that the aspiring young new entrepreneur, kidnapping business startup has to do is commit a few kidnappings in the area to get the reputation so that people will buy the insurance. So from that point forward, you can have an ongoing passive revenue stream coming in from people that bought the insurance, because they know that this is a kidnapping area. And after you've established the reputation, everyone just buys the insurance. No one's stupid enough to wing it. Once you can match that up with an app, and if that's all legal, which it is, because the same generals that decided to pay Halliburton and Lockheed to go clear the way, sometimes they do it without firing a shot. They know the tribal leaders whose palm you gotta grease in order to get those guys that are alongside the roadway to leave. It's easier than shooting it out with them to just go pay the tribe leader. And that's how they did it in the military, and that's how they continue to do it once they start up a private company. Ex-military, CIA, FBI, CIA, military intelligence are also working with Pakistani military intelligence, ex-military and currently enlisted, and the Taliban tribal leaders that are like a form of government of their own. And so the guy that's running a international kidnapping insurance agency has connections to those American and British intelligence agents, to those foreign intelligence agents, and to the tribal council leaders, which gives him a valuable resource to be able to sell to the public. Now that I've been in the military and I know all the right people who have to be paid or shot in order for you to get a convoy through without getting kidnapped, I will sell you that service now that I'm no longer enlisted in the military, because I still have all the same connections. If you think you know who to go pay $1,000 to keep yourself from getting kidnapped, be my guest. But I was there. I know the power brokers and the players in that area, or this other area, or that other area. In each area, there's a different person who you have to pay or shoot in order to get through the choke point of the bridges and the roadways that go from one town to the other. So he might know someone that might even be, and able to put some of those bamboo splinters up your fingernails. That's the negotiation that a claims adjuster in such an insurance company would be involved in. Well, ma'am, I really suggest that you pay the ransom now, because after they've inserted the splinters under his fingernails, he won't be the same person. Even if you do get him back thereafter, it won't be the same person. The trauma that will be endured, he won't be able to have the same relationship with you or your children. So we really suggest that before they go through with this next phase of negotiation with the bamboo splinters under the fingernails, we should probably just pay the amount that they're asking for. That's the kind of quantum of conscience that you have to take into account when you're doing this kind of negotiation. How much does this person care about that person? Will they be willing to pay the money? Will me telling them that this person's about to get splinters under their fingernails affect this person's judgment-making decision? How much do they care about that person? That's one of the metrics, quantifiable metrics of conscience that go into the calculation of a claims adjuster who's doing kidnapping insurance. Oh, we got a claim on a policy. If you don't see that in light of this new evidence, you should take it into consideration when listening to such a person, and that's not his old job, that's the new gig. You do the new gig, not the old gig. That's the old gig. We're doing the new gig. Infiltrating and becoming a cultural influencer, and once you've demonstrated such an ability to do so, the investors will pile on. Say, like, I just really want to thank all of you who gave your information over there at freevoice.io. That really helps for me to get some new investors into the project by proving the milestones of success that we've been able to have by infiltrating the most skeptical, cynical, untrustworthy demographic of the entire internet and getting them to give their information over there at freevoice.io. Like the same kind of retaliation that Matt came out with against the non-threatening old guy in the rocking chair with the British accent. What have we here? National Weather Alert Service. Dust storming. Warning in this area. Pull aside. Stay alive. Okay, we get it. No, we don't want to receive any more alerts about dust storms. I don't know what the hell that was about. Probably just testing it. Anyway, so he's lied to you twice. It's a lie of omission. When he tells you he's an insurance agent and left all the rest of this out, that's a lie. The fact that he has access to the plasma fire info and he fails to mention any of that is also a lie of omission. He's leaving that out while still calling himself a truther. And I'll even cut him a break on that one, because the truth is, if this plasma fire info goes viral, that's game over for all of us. Life as you know it comes to a screeching halt. People redirect their retirement savings toward their bucket list immediately. And that's just one of the many changes in society that you would see rapidly transform before your eyes if the truth about the plasma fires went viral. So we'll cut him a pass on that. He just doesn't want to tell people, to prolong the calm before the storm. As I've said, that it's a good thing that my channel gets choked down and that the flow of this information is moderated, because in the wrong hands, like the hands of the general population, it would be very destructive information. Talk more about that later, about my role in this and your role in this, considering the magnitude of that information that I just cited and the impact that it would have on the world if everybody knew. That kind of puts you and me in a different position than everybody. But back to Matt. As far as the magnitude of the information on this channel, plasma fires alone. I don't want to keep reciting the list, but sun tunnel, airborne aircraft carrier, moon in the sky, portal in the cathedral, black dot craft that I filmed over Pleasant Grove and that I extracted from Joe Embrianos and MB3s, and there's probably other things too, but just the plasma fire alone. is of a magnitude greater than anything you see anywhere else on anyone's channel. So don't compare this channel to others and say every YouTuber thinks that their content is more valuable than it is and that they should get more subscribers and that other YouTubers should validate and recognize their contribution. There are no other contributions to this conversation. Like Tiger Doug trying to pretend as if there was, we already went over that. It's me and Renegade Sloth, that's it. He don't like Sidekick Sloth, he wants to be Renegade Sloth. That's just the plasma fires. Add to that the rest of the list of the things that you have been able to see for yourself. Multiply that by 10, and that's the revelations I've received. But just the ones that I've been able to put in visual format and relay to you means we're in a different category here, and that's what I mean when I say I've accepted my role in this. Have you accepted yours? We'll talk about that another time. Right now I want to get back to Matt. I just had another good thought and it just slipped past me again. Oh yeah. Now I'll go deep dive. Everything I've said up until this point is absolutely evidence that should lead anybody to question the source when you now know that about that person. And to dismiss it shows that you've already got a personal attachment to the investigation and you're not interested in truth. You're interested in maintaining your personal attachment to the investigation, even so much as to defend and preserve your own relationship with yourself. It's no longer about Matt. And I say principles before personalities. In principle, all the evidence I've shown you about this guy presenting himself as a truther and being a cultural influencer, in principle, yes, should make you skeptical. You suspect, Matt, you suspect. But for some reason, people have latched onto this personality and somehow are going to dismiss all of that evidence that if taken into account objectively, based in principle, yes, such a person who held such a position and has already lied to you about it by telling you he's an insurance agent should be suspect from that point forward. The default should be, yeah, I don't take anything he says seriously. And that's just one person. It's not the end of the world. With everything else I just listed, who Matt is so meaningless and insignificant by comparison to all the other things that I just went over. I have far bigger fish to fry. And so when I hear someone in the comment section saying, "Why do you hate Matt so much?" tells me you got nothing. If you're reaching for the word hate, that's the secular version of evil. This is evil, that's evil. Oh, it's evil. Well, then nothing more need be said. If you're reaching for the word hate, evil is a label that you ascribe to someone that allows you to withdraw all compassion from that which has been declared evil. Hate is the secular version of the same thing. Why do you hate Matt so much? Shows me you got nothing as a counter argument to all of the evidence that I've just put forth. I don't have a strong enough feeling about Matt to hate him. There's nothing personal about this. I would respond to anyone out there in principle if and when I discover the same type of information about them. Anyone who can dismiss the fact that he was an international kidnapping insurance agent who started the business himself, you're too far gone. I have no interest in interacting with you. If you cannot see that this information should have been brought to light, and it does raise some serious questions, if you can just dismiss those questions immediately, be gone with you. Oh, and by the way, this is still a recruiting effort, and we don't need anyone like that. If you can't see the validity of the evidence that I've brought to your attention, and you can somehow avert your gaze, cut that out, engage in cognitive dissonance, and deny that thing which I just showed you about that guy, then you're so attached to that guy in personality that you're willing to deny principles. We don't need anyone like that. So now I'm going to go deep dive. What's the chances Matt's actually out there to muddy the waters about the Muse messages by throwing out that shit, row, row, row your boat over and over and over? See, I remember when I first heard of Matt through Owen Benjamin, and Owen made a joke. He's like, yeah, I'm real suspicious of row, row, row your boat. I'm real suspicious about row, row, row your boat. He was making a joke about it because it's ridiculous. And if anyone like me who has proven that these Muse messages are real by the fact that Vanessa and I came up with the same exact word regarding sailing, and I had made a video regarding how the song Sail by AWOL Nation hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought, wow, I wonder if there's something to this underlying message embedded within that concept of sail. I thought I'd go look up the music video Sail Away by Enya. Sail away, sail away, sail away. And in the process, I came across Sail Away by David Gray, and I was like, no, that's not it. Oh, wait a minute, maybe it is. Let's watch that one. I'd never seen it before. Sure enough, it hits me like a ton of bricks too. And a year and a half later, when I see Vanessa using these very words to describe this archetype, this concept of understanding that's embedded within the lyrics and the meaning of this music, and I send her my video that I made a year and a half ago regarding these words, and I mention all three songs, Sail, Sail Away by Enya, and Sail Away by David Gray, in this one little video to show her, hey, I'm picking up the same messages. If it was a figment of our imagination, we wouldn't be picking up the same figment of our imaginations. It's like when people do an acid trip and they have a hallucination. That's one thing. When they do DMT and they all come back with the same exact hallucination about these 4-foot-tall little munchkin dudes, that's not a hallucination or a figment of their imagination. They're tapping into another dimension. Likewise, with the Muse messages regarding the sailing metaphor and reference, which I've duplicated many other times. So for Vanessa and I, we know that there is a truth about these messages embedded within the music. So it might be, for an adversarial point of view, beneficial to insert people into the zeitgeist, into the community, in order to influence the conversation. Oh yeah, those messages embedded in the music. There's like a real truth drop in row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And anyone who comes across that shit is like, just like Kit Kat with a dash and all the other subterfuge that's meant to muddy the waters and give you meaningless, insignificant bullshit as an iconic placeholder, as a representative of this thing people are talking about when they talk about the Mandela effect. And the average researcher comes along and sees Kit Kat with a dash and the spelling of Febreze and a bunch of other meaningless, insignificant bullshit and says, I'm out of here. Before they see the real ones of the Lion and the Lamb, of the Lord's Prayer, of others that stand out, even to a non-Bible reading person, as significant and meaningful, so much so that this Mandela effect thing has some validity and credence to it. But you add some subterfuge to muddy the water with shit like Kit Kat with a dash and the spelling of Febreze and a bunch of other bullshit surrounding the truth at the heart of the matter, and it gets rid of 90% of the people that would have come along and recognized that. It's just like putting out fake alien autopsies online to cover for the real one or two that are actually out there. Putting out fake giants that have been found. A guy from National Geographic ran his own hoax with a regular size human skeleton and some trick photography, and then came out later and said, nah, it was just a trick. It's not really a giant. I did that. In order that the person who comes along and sees that goes, oh, I got fooled. I'm not going to get fooled again. I'm never going to believe in that again. There's reasons they do that. Could Matt be the guy inserted into the conversation to keep reciting row, row, row your boat as if it's what people are talking about when they talk about these Muse messages embedded within the music? And then they come across Matt and they laugh it off and dismiss it as if it's just bullshit. Now that I've shown and told you all the things I have about him, you watch. Everything he covers is meaningless, insignificant, and will have no impact on anyone's life. I think Adolf Eichmann ran the Terrorism Insurance Claims Adjustment and Compensation Bureau for the Nazi regime. He never killed anyone. He was a technocrat who ran the books. Remember the knockout game that was going on a while back? How about some knockout insurance by BLM and Antifa provided to you in the Portland, Seattle area where you're going to need it most? And they will give you an insurance policy that will prevent you from getting knocked out. So, the guys that would start up this kind of insurance company in the private sector are just doing exactly what they did in the military. And one of the most effective ways that they found to keep people from getting kidnapped is to pay the kidnappers ahead of time. Or you can try and shoot it out with their guys, but it's just so much easier to just pay the kingpin and he'll give his radio and those guys will disappear and you can walk right down the road. And when you've discovered it's far more economically viable, far more efficient and effective to just pay them than to fight it out with them every time, because they're willing to fight it out every time. That's how they live. That's how they eat. They ain't gonna not fight it out even once. So each time you either gotta fight it out or pay them off. And each time there'll be replacements. So it just becomes easier, a more simple from an economic standpoint, to pay them off, and it removes the obstacle that stands between you and your objective. As an insurance company, as a way to mitigate risk, we have guys out there that are doing reconnaissance, who do communicate with the local tribes in whatever area you're going to that we need this policy established for, who do preventative measures to prevent you from being kidnapped. Not just reactive after the fact, but proactive before the fact. In other words, they go in there and you can either pay the ransom before you get kidnapped or after. We know who to pay the money to, and we know exactly how much to pay them. If you would like to buy one of our insurance policies, we assure you, you will be better off for it. If you don't, we can assure you it's not going to be pretty for you, so we suggest you buy one of our insurance policies. It's not hard to understand. The hardest thing for anybody to understand is that which would require you to change your ways. And that prevents you from being able to understand something. In this case, you would have to acknowledge you got had, that you have a blind spot. This ain't even about Matt. This is about you acknowledging you had a blind spot. And in order to avoid acknowledging that, you want to defend Matt. It also makes for a good opportunity for people who don't have the content of character that I do, that's from a long line of proven track record of doing the right thing. They like to look for opportunities like this to defend the victim in order they can play the hero. Because in real life, opportunities come along where you either summon the courage or play the coward. And people who play the coward then look for scenarios in life where they can create an artificial straw man scenario where they make one to be the villain, that guy's the victim, and I step in and play the hero. People who have actually done the right thing when it's time to toe the line, they are not attracted. They find no appeal in such artificial scenarios where they get to play the hero. So a situation like this, my phone just glitched or whatever, draws those people out of the woodwork who want to take a nice, cheap, easy way to make themselves feel good about themselves by defending the victim. How dare you? Why are you so hateful? In closing, here's the thing about Judas goats. You don't know which way they're going to lead you till right at the end, like Glenn Beck, who told all his followers to vote for Ed McMullen when it was between Hillary and Trump. And everyone that he got to vote for Ed McMullen was a half a vote for Hillary. You never saw that coming, yet he still has followers that didn't see that he led them into the slaughter when it really mattered. Glenn Beck was in there for decades before his choice point where he was